I'm Matt.
I'm Shane.
And if you like what you hear, make sure you hit that thumbs up button real hard and make sure you subscribe to Comic Movie Marks.
And also click that little bell for all of the notifications.
Whee!
Always remember,
if Trailer Trash can do it,
anyone can do it.
So awesome, man. I'm so excited. It was like, it called me up and said, do you want to do this? And I thought, well, I'm like 25, man. Are you sure about this? They come down, we want to show you what we're doing. And it was incredible. Zack Snyder's directing it. He's this incredible take on it. That's like, obviously, you can't do what Chris and Christian did. Those movies are amazing. And so he wants to do something different, but still in keeping with that. And so I had I thought, this is a brilliant way to do this. And I really know how to hook into this.
Hello and welcome everyone to another Comic Movie Marks video. I'm writing solo today. Shane is a little bit busy. I think he got deported or something. Not quite sure what's going on. The next couple downloads, I might be doing this by myself. We will see depending on how he gets back across the border. But we're here to talk about Ben Affleck. Man, what a ride the last week has been with Affleck, making his resurgence back into Hollywood with The Way Back. And of course, he's doing a press tour. And with press tours comes a lot of questions. A lot of questions asked by bloggers and journalists about various topics. We'll kind of go in a chronological order here. With a sit down with the New York Times, Ben Affleck talked to him about many things. The title of the article is Ben Affleck Tried to Drink Away the Pain. Now he's trying honesty. A lot of Affleck's issues over the past several years due to a lot of various things, personal issues. If you now look at the press tour, he looks vibrant, he looks great, he looks younger, he looks like he's back all the way in 2014, ready to play Batman again. So one little snippet that came out of that article, The Batman, which Affleck was supposed to direct himself, he stepped aside allowing Matt Reeves to take over and Robert Pattinson to don the cowl after deciding that the troubled shoot for Justice League has sapped his interest. Affleck never seemed to enjoy his time as Batman. His sullen demeanor while promoting Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice in 2016 resulted in the hit meme Sad Affleck. A quote by Affleck talking about his script for The Batman. He said, "I showed somebody the Batman script," Affleck recalled. "They said, I think the script is good. I also think you'll drink yourself to death if you go through what you just went through again."
Get that fucking smile on my face. Ear to ear, baby.
Of course, this individual is talking about the troubled Justice League shoot. A peel back behind the curtain when it comes to the Justice League shoot, I've almost come to the conclusion that whenever a documentary is done about this time period in WB/DC, it will be probably more interesting than the SnyderCut itself. It's crazy to see such a high and then such a drastic, colossal fall with DC.
Everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm!
Wait.
Everybody calm down!
This actually lines up pretty well with what Robert Richardson said in an MTV interview a while back, talking about Affleck's script. Robert Richardson confirmed Affleck's Batman script was finished and not exactly beloved by everyone involved in the film's development. Richardson says there was a script, but not a love script. There was a lot to do. He was trying to change it, and then he made the decision to do, as you know, Gone Girl. Fuck the Batman, too much drama going on, I'm gonna go to Gone Girl. Richardson also comments that Affleck's Batman would have been the darker side of Batman, and also says, well, Affleck was going more into the insanity aspects. So I think you would have seen something a little darker than what we've seen in the past and more into the individual who was inside Batman. A lot of drama surrounding Justice League and the Batman script, and a lot of people have placed certain blame on certain individuals, i.e. Geoff Johns. Geoff Johns has gotten a lot of hate because of how he inserted himself into the DC universe. As soon as he got the title 2016, he definitely started tinkering with things. Some changes that were done to Wonder Woman were equated to him. Obviously, a lot of things that happened in Justice League were equated to him. And then, of course, some of the stress that Affleck endured during his script, the blame has been put on him as well. Jay Leva was talking about storyboarding aspects of The Batman in London with both Geoff Johns and Ben Affleck. And of course, no one can forget Jay Leva giving his stamp of approval on the original Affleck script. It was the best Batman script I've ever read. Ben had a kick-ass story, and I believe that the audience and fans would have loved it.
What? Okay, fine, I'm cool, I'm fine.
Mario Robles of the Fanboy podcast had a podcast all the way back in October of 2018, talking about some of the issues of Justice League, and especially emphasizing on the Ben Affleck aspects and the issues that he had with Justice League and WB Studios.
On where all this desire for him to leave came from. Because that's always kind of been the big question, right? You know, he came on very strong. You could tell he was very motivated for Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. And then somewhere along the way, he, like, you know, to quote wrestling, to quote Shawn Michaels, who's coming out of retirement. What? Anyway, he lost his smile. So apparently, when the studio was looking into doing all of its changes to Justice League and kind of overhauling the overall direction for where they were going with these films, this deeply bothered Ben Affleck because Mr. Affleck had bought in hardcore, hook, line, and sinker into Snyder's vision. In fact, when he signed on to take the role of Batman and appear in X amount of films in his contract, it was all sort of, you know, keeping in mind what this overall game plan was, what the roadmap was that Snyder laid out for him. That's really what appealed to him. So when the studio stepped up and started trying to tweaks, and he saw what they did with Batman v Superman, where they cut off a half hour, and all of a sudden the writing was on the wall of what they were going to do with Justice League with new writers and trying to overhaul things kind of on the fly, that didn't sit well with Affleck. Affleck, you got to understand, he's old school. You know, the director is the king. The director is the king of the castle. The buck stops there. He calls the shots on his own set. He gets final cut of his film. He is, you know, he's the guy who's in control of what's happening. He's not about this new thing now where the studios like to come in and meddle, and you have a bunch of guys with suits giving you studio notes and saying, here's how you should do it. Or so when they started trying to meddle on, you know, BVS, and especially with Justice League, and essentially kind of like usurp, you know, Zack Snyder and sap him of his power, Affleck went to bat for Mr. Snyder. He wanted to stick with the plan. He wanted to keep the existing script that Terrio had worked on for Justice League. He was very much on board, and he went to bat for Snyder and for the Justice League production. It's apparently one of the main reasons that he just became so sort of disenchanted with DC Entertainment. So,
how cool was it for you to go back into that environment with new suits and all the guys?
It was great, and there was a lot of changes, and there was a lot of new stuff, and there was a whole sort of feeling of kind of rebirth, and there was an exciting group of actors, you know, Ezra Miller and Jason Momoa and guys like that who are so much fun, and Gal Gadot, of course, was great, and Henry Cavill, and it was just it was a lot of fun.
I want to remind everybody that Mario Robles is the one that broke the original story about Justice League, that they were reworking the whole movie. And a lot of us, including us here at Comic Movie Marks, didn't believe him, thinking there's no way they would try to revamp an entire movie in such a short amount of time. That just doesn't seem possible. No one in their sane mind would do that. November 17th, 2017 proved us very wrong. Completely butchered, very little aspects felt anything like Snyder at all. It was a complete rehaul. When you're talking about the issues with the Justice League shoot, Mario Robles is a fairly reliable source when it comes to this, when it comes to the WB aspect of Justice League. So if we come back around to Geoff Johns, which, again, like I said earlier, seems to get a lot of hate.
Oh man, hate.
In that press tour for The Way Back with Ben Affleck, he said this about his Batman script.
Can you tell me what the Batman would have been?
Well, we had a script. It was a whole thing. You know, really what it was for me was, and I like the script. I wrote it with Geoff Johns, who I have a lot of respect for. It just so happened that, like, I had done a couple of those movies, and I kind of lost my passion for it. You know what I mean? I kind of lost my passion for telling those stories. I got interested in telling stories more like this, and it just seemed like, you know, very clear to me that if it's not the most important thing in the world to you, you're not going to make a very good movie. A movie deserves to be made by somebody who's dying to do it and can't wait, and that wasn't me at the time, so I moved on.
Just like Robles was saying, There was a lack of passion. He felt defeated by what Warner Brothers did to Justice League. He even says that he respects Geoff Johns, which is a very random thing to say because no one asked about Geoff Johns, and to bring up Geoff Johns is a very odd thing to say. Now, some say he's being professional, some say he's got a hidden message, some say he's just being straightforward. If you go back to that New York Times article, the title was Ben Affleck tried to drink away the pain. Now he's trying honesty. So do we just take him at his word? That becomes difficult because Ben Affleck was also the same individual that said he would be a monkey for Matt Reeves. He also professed that Whedon and Snyder's style really blended well. Of course, that was all being professional and just being a team player with WB. Is he still being a team player with WB? Well, this is a WB press tour. There could be some line of professionalism there. Maybe he did respect Geoff Johns. There's a lot of unanswered questions we have. But I think what a lot of people miss is that when you look at the billboard of executives and producers at the time for Justice League, there's a lot of names there that are no longer there at WB. And there is a reason why. Diane Nelson, John Berg, Kevin Tsujihara, Geoff Johns, and many others are no longer working under DC Films. I think a lot of people actually forget about John Berg. He was closely attached to a lot of things DC. He was the one standing there on the Justice League set, making sure Snyder did what he was supposed to and keeping things under budget. That was reported. So there's no way that John Berg didn't have some kind of influence on a lot of things that happened in Justice League. It's even stated John Berg oversaw the studio's DC films alongside with DC Chief Creative Officer Geoff Johns. So you have those two working in tandem. You obviously have Diane Nelson, which in a Hollywood Reporter article says Johns will continue to answer to Diane Nelson in his new position. The ascension of Geoff Johns at DC Entertainment continues. Following the initial reports, the Hollywood Reporter has confirmed that Johns now holds the title of President and Chief Creative Officer at the Warner Brothers division, answerable to Diane Nelson, who remains president of DC Entertainment. And then you have someone like Kevin Tsujihara, who reportedly changed his mind every 3 fucking seconds about which direction DC was gonna go.
It's obvious to me, and I think it's pretty obvious to anybody that's listening to this podcast and that's followed what happened with DC, that a lot of the problems that came about with the building of their cinematic universe, including the reactionary tendency to keep changing back and forth every time, at the drop of a hat, they would freak out and change what they were going to do, and that's what led to the changes with Justice League and to Zack Snyder departing as he and Deborah Snyder kind of overseeing the DC universe. And that was, Tsujihara played a big role in that. His attitude toward the DC properties and general toward how he ran the studio.
The thing about Geoff Johns is that unfortunately, out of this group of individuals that really fucked this whole thing up, he's kind of the poster boy of it all. He's the face because he was out there more than anybody. He was given this role after the disappointing box office in WB's eyes of Batman vs. Superman. So now when you're put in that position, you're gonna put your hands in that cookie jar more than ever. You're gonna do whatever you can to right this ship. There's always going to be consequences to those actions. And unfortunately, even with his best intentions of trying to fix things in his eye, unfortunately, it made things even worse. And that goes for all those executives that were a part of this. And that's why they're not there. To solely put the blame on Geoff Johns is a little lazy when there's so many individuals that were a part of this. Is it easy to do it? Very easy to do it. Because he was the poster boy. He put himself out there. He was the one that championed hope and optimism, which Ben Affleck's solo Batman movie, according to Robert Richardson, would have not met hope and optimism when you're talking about going down the mental status of Batman and the insanity of Arkham Asylum. There is no hope and optimism when it comes to that. But what we can have hope and optimism about is the Snyder Cut. Ben Affleck continues to support the Snyder Cut after his tweet on November 17th, 2019, Z-Day. He continues that support while being on a WB press tour, which I find very funny. He was directly asked about the Snyder Cut and his involvement on November 17th, 2019. Affleck says, "I didn't know about it. Zach was like, hey, they are doing this thing. And I said, Zach, I love you and I support you however I can help you." I do think that movie, you know, having two directors is a very weird thing. And for Justice League, the director had a family tragedy. And so you have a kind of cow's body with a horse's head, a little bit with two directors a lot of times. For better or for worse, I do think Zack's cut should be available.
Nice. 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 Nice.
A lot to unpackage there. I'm kind of curious when he says Zack was like, hey, they are doing this thing. I would love to know who they is. That is kind of an interesting thing to say, is they. And of course, comparing Justice League to a cow's body and a horse's head is quite elegant, even though I don't even think it's packaged that well. So it's good to see Ben Affleck back at it again, going through his press tour for The Way Back. A lot to unravel there with all these different aspects that Affleck has laid out for us. And kind of that low point when Justice League came out. And now he's back at a high and he wants to see the Snyder Cut just like all of us. He might have already seen the Snyder Cut, I don't know. There's kind of that cryptic message a while back from Mark Hughes when Jason Momoa said he's seen it, and Mark Hughes saying he won't be the last to say that he saw the Snyder Cut. I've always been curious who has seen it. When it comes to this whole mess with Justice League, I think it's summed up best by this Jay Oliva tweet. This tweet was in reference to some of the things going on with the Batman script at the time. There was a lot happening that is above you and my paycheck. I wish it was easy just making it. I had some of the best Batman/Deathstroke stuff I'd ever done.
Jordan fades back, swoosh, and that's the game! Nothing further, Your Honor.
That's the whole point. This is way above any of our scale to even try to figure out. It's gonna take some serious digging and some serious talking by a lot of people someday to actually crack what happened during this troubled Justice League shoot. So that'll end our little show. That was my solo attempt. Hopefully it was adequate. I know we're kind of trailer trashy, and so I tried to do my best on this one, rolling solo. If you guys want to support us, we have a Patreon link in the description. Whatever you can do to support us will be greatly appreciated. It's amazing to see the support we have gotten on Patreon, and we're almost getting to a point now where we're self-sufficient and we don't have to rely on YouTube's choking algorithm system. Check us out on Twitter mainly. That's where we're most active, is Twitter. In case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.